Hey friends, if you've ever walked into work with your head down, heart pounding, praying the boss doesn't notice you because one wrong glance could end everything you've fought to rebuild, then lean in close, because this story is going to wrap itself around your heart and refuse to let go. Picture this, a man so desperate to stay invisible that he times his coffee runs, changes elevators, even eats lunch in his car, just to avoid her. Then one ordinary Friday night, he sits across from a blind date his sister swore would change his life, only to lock eyes with the exact woman he's been dodging for 6 months. What happens next isn't just romance, it's redemption, courage, and the kind of quiet miracle that makes you believe again. Stay with me until the final sentence, because by the end you might just look at the person you've been running from in a completely new light. This is, I tried to avoid my CEO, turns out she is my blind date. Matthew Hayes had perfected the art of disappearing. At 32, he moved through the gleaming glass towers of Lawson Enterprises like a ghost in a tailored suit, headphones in, eyes on his laptop, footsteps quick and silent. 6 months earlier, he had made the kind of mistake that still haunted his dreams, a single misplaced decimal in a quarter-end report that cost the company a 6-figure client meeting. Rebecca Lawson, the formidable CEO who had built the firm from her parents' garage into a billion-dollar empire, had sent one email, short, professional, devastating, "See me." He never went. Instead he sent apology flowers, worked 80-hour weeks, and became the employee everyone whispered about but no one really saw. The grief from losing his mother to cancer 2 years ago still sat heavy in his chest like wet concrete. His ex-fiancée had left with the words, "I can't keep carrying your sadness, Matt." So he stopped dating, stopped hoping, and poured every remaining ounce of himself into numbers and deadlines. His younger sister, Sophie, refused to accept that version of him. Every Sunday she called from her little apartment in Portland, voice bright and relentless. "You're 32, not 82. One blind date. One dinner. If it's awful, I'll never mention it again." On the Friday that changed everything, Matthew finally said yes. Not because he believed in love anymore, but because the loneliness had started to feel louder than the fear. Sophie had arranged everything, 7:30 p.m. at the Lantern, a cozy Italian place downtown with soft lighting and no corporate clientele. "She's kind, successful, and she loves old jazz records just like Mom did," Sophie promised. "Her name is Becca. Trust me." He arrived early, heart hammering, rehearsing polite exit lines in his head. The hostess led him to a corner table by the window where rain tapped gently against the glass. He ordered water, straightened his tie, and stared at the flickering candle until the chair across from him scraped back. The first thing he noticed was the scent, subtle vanilla and something warmer, like rain on cedar. Then the voice, low and confident yet strangely gentle, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was brutal." Matthew looked up. Time stopped. Rebecca Lawson stood there in a simple emerald dress that made her dark eyes look endless. The same Rebecca Lawson whose signature was on his paycheck, whose voice he had heard through conference room walls issuing million-dollar decisions, whose photo hung in the lobby with the caption, "Visionary Leader." Her hair was down tonight, soft waves instead of the usual sleek bun. No power suit. No boardroom armor. Just a woman holding a small clutch and offering a shy smile that didn't match the legend. His stomach plummeted. Every instinct screamed run. He could pretend he had the wrong table, fake a sudden emergency, disappear into the rain like he had disappeared at work for months. But her eyes, those sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing, were already widening in slow recognition. "Matthew Hayes," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "From the analytics team?" The candle flame danced between them like it, too, was holding its breath. He managed a hoarse, "Yes, ma'am." Then, because his mother had raised him better, he stood, pulled out her chair, and whispered the only honest thing he could, "I can leave. Right now. No one has to know." But Rebecca didn't move. She studied him for a long moment, really studied him, the way no one had since his mother died. Then she sat down, folded her hands, and said softly, "Please stay. I think I think we both deserve to find out why the universe just played this particular joke on us. That was the moment Matthew stopped running. Dinner stretched into 3 hours that felt like 3 minutes and 3 lifetimes at once. At first the conversation was careful, almost formal: weather, the new coffee station on the 14th floor, how the rain made the city lights look like scattered diamonds. But somewhere between the shared tiramisu and the second glass of wine, the walls began to crack. Rebecca spoke of the weight she carried every day, the fear that one misstep would prove every skeptic right, that a woman in her 30s couldn't lead an empire. She confessed how she ate dinner alone most nights in her penthouse, scrolling through old family photos because the silence after board meetings was deafening. "Everyone sees the CEO," she said, voice trembling just slightly. "No one sees the girl who still cries when she hears her father's favorite song." Matthew listened, really listened, the way he hadn't let himself listen to anyone since the funeral. Then, because her honesty unlocked something rusty inside his chest, he told her everything. The hospital nights with his mother. The way his ex had packed her bags while he was still wearing the same shirt he'd slept in for 3 days. The panic attack he hid in the stairwell after her email. The way he had avoided Rebecca not because he hated her, but because he was terrified that if she looked at him too closely she would see how broken he still was. When he finished, tears he hadn't cried in public for 2 years were sliding down his face. Rebecca reached across the table and took his hand, small, warm, surprisingly strong. "I saw the mistake in that report," she said quietly. "But I also saw the 100 other reports you fixed perfectly. I wanted to tell you that you weren't in trouble, but you vanished. Every time I stepped into a room, you were already gone." Her thumb brushed his knuckles. "I thought maybe I scared you. Turns out we were both just hiding." They talked until the restaurant staff began stacking chairs. Outside, the rain had softened to a mist. Rebecca offered him her umbrella even though she had none for herself. Matthew walked her to her car anyway, the two of them shoulder to shoulder under the tiny canopy, laughing when a gust of wind turned it inside out. At her driver's door she turned to him, raindrops clinging to her lashes like tiny stars. "Monday morning will be awkward," she said. "Power dynamics, HR policies, all of it. But Matthew, I don't want to go back to pretending I don't see you anymore." He swallowed hard. "I don't want to disappear again." She smiled, the kind of smile that felt like sunrise after the longest night. "Then don't. Let's figure this out, one honest conversation at a time. No more hiding." The next Monday, Matthew didn't change elevators. He walked straight into the morning leadership briefing, heart in his throat, and when Rebecca's eyes found his across the long table she gave the smallest, warmest nod. No one else noticed. But he did. And for the first time in years, he felt seen. 3 months later he received a well-deserved promotion, not because of who he was dating, but because he had finally stopped playing small. Rebecca made sure the entire company knew it was earned. They kept their relationship quiet at first, stealing coffee dates on the roof garden, late-night phone calls filled with old jazz records and shared prayers. Because somewhere in those vulnerable hours, Matthew had begun praying again, not for things to be fixed, but for the courage to walk through whatever came next. On the 1-year anniversary of that blind date, Rebecca took him back to the lantern. This time the table had a small velvet box waiting beside the candle. Inside was a simple silver ring engraved with the words his mother used to say, "The best things find you when you stop running." Matthew didn't run. He knelt right there in the restaurant, rain tapping the same window, and asked the woman who had once terrified him to spend the rest of her life letting him love her exactly as she was, CEO, woman, miracle. She said yes through happy tears. And somewhere in the quiet corners of heaven, Matthew was sure his mother was smiling, whispering the truth he had finally learned: sometimes the very person you think will destroy your world is the one God sent to rebuild it. So here's the message I want you to carry with you, dear friend watching this right now: stop hiding. The thing you're running from, the boss who intimidates you, the dream that scares you, the love you don't think you deserve, might just be the beautiful surprise waiting on the other side of your fear. Have courage. Show up. Let yourself be seen. Because second chances don't always look like lightning bolts, sometimes they look like a blind date across a candlelit table, rain on the window, and two broken hearts finally brave enough to say, I'm still here. And I choose you. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched something in you, drop a comment with the word "seen" so I know you're out there believing in your own miracle. You're not invisible. You never were. Now go live the next chapter of your beautiful story. I'll be cheering for you.